Hello and welcome to my video about Dave Chappelle and marriage. Just in case you didn't know who Dave Chappelle is, he's an American comedian who I personally consider one of the greatest comedians ever. He done some really great sketches, like the Black White Supremacist, where there was a blind guy who thought he was white his entire life and basically become a leading figure in the KKK, and then it turns out he was black, and it's just so funny. Dave Chappelle once made the statement that he wouldn't have been successful if he was not married. Now, on the surface, you can interpret this many different ways, but that doesn't logically follow. So you have premise one. Basically, how does marriage increase or decrease the amount of talent that you have? It obviously doesn't. So, for example, let's take Usain Bolt. If he gets married to 1 or 100 women, he's not going to get any faster or slower. In the same way, Dave Chappelle, if he's married or unmarried, he's not going to get any funnier. However, this isn't what Dave is actually saying on a simple reading. What he's actually saying is about the pressure of family, the pressure of family and commitment and responsibility pushes him outside of his comfort zone. It pushes him to be more than he currently is. And it reminds me of one of the guys I was working with. He was a top sales manager, and I remember we was chatting one day about houses and mortgages. And with the figures he told me, I worked out he could easily pay off his mortgage. And I was asking him, well, why haven't you? And he was laughing. And he's like, one day you'll understand. And basically, for example, let's take the sales manager. Let's say the sales manager paid off his mortgage. That's not going to motivate him necessarily once he's paid off his mortgage. So once his amount of bills and pressure has been taken away, he's not going to have his his killer drive to go out and get that money. Now, to a certain extent, all humans need some sort of force or pressure. For example, the golden age of literature in Russia, unfortunately, they say it only happened because things were so bad. But through the struggle and the strife, some people sort of push past and massively exceed and produce works that are truly great. But I've often thought about this. I don't know if this is an existential question as such, but the pressures that drive me. I suppose ultimately, if we try to pursue a course of reaching our maximum potential, whatever that might be, that can be our own drive, our own pressure, the pressure of oneself. I always remember the British Army had a great quote which they probably stole, which was, "No one will ever push you as hard as you will push yourself." Because whilst we may have physical limitations, as we've seen with our current society, there's so many rich retards who who I know generations ago would have probably just died in obscurity, but they've managed to make themselves very successful. For example, there's this quite famous woman called Jade Goody who went on a reality TV show, and she was just a massive retard. Everyone hated her, but she managed to get some lucrative advertising deals, and unfortunately I think she died of cancer. But within her really short and brief time, she managed to write a book, make millions, and set her family up for life past her existence, which it wouldn't even have been possible generations ago, and in itself is an extremely impressive feat. Now, the darker and the flip side of Dave Chappelle and the sales manager is what happens if you're not successful? What happens then? And why I would like to try to hold Dave Chappelle up as an example to follow, I have to look at the average man and reality and think what is the realistic outcomes. So the short of it is, if you're not successful, you lose your wife and kids and your life will be destroyed. That's why ultimately, when you should be sort of striving to perfection, like for example, let's take Dave Chappelle. Imagine if he didn't say anything necessarily about marriage, but his motivation was to be the greatest comedian of all time, and he's, I don't know, egoism or narcissism sort of pushes him to keep making, I don't know, comedy specials and keep working and keep saying to people like, look, I am really funny, I am awesome, and sort of not forcing people to respect him, but by putting out so much work, you cannot argue with the quality and the consistency of his work. And that way, if things didn't work out with his family, or if he went into obscurity, he became unsuccessful, it would hopefully not impact him as much. And you can change Dave Chappelle to the average man if you want to use that as a working example. Okay, that was it for this video. Thank you for listening and goodbye.